Alright, here we go everybody. This video is going to cover the area of quadrilaterals and triangles. So, one of the things you need to know about area is that area is always going to be measured in square units, or units squared. Now that could be inches squared, feet squared, millimeters squared, whatever. Now, the formula you need to know for a parallelogram, which I will tell you can be used for multiple different shapes, is just the base times the height. That's going to find the area of a parallelogram for you. Now, the area of a triangle, if you think about it in terms of a parallelogram, we can take a triangle by simply cutting it in half diagonally. So that's why a triangle is half of the base times height, if a regular parallelogram is just base times height, because it splits it into two equal pieces. Okay? Now, there's other formulas that you're going to have to know for different types of parallelograms and quadrilaterals. So a trapezoid, we know, is not a parallelogram, so you cannot use base times height. So you can use 1/2 the height times the sum of the bases, or the height times the sum of the bases divided by 2. Either or, it's the same thing. Just like multiplying by 1/2 is the same as dividing by 2 in a triangle. In a kite, you have to use 1/2 diagonal 1 times diagonal 2, but you can also do that for a rhombus. Now remember, a rhombus is also a parallelogram. So you can use base times height if you have that information for a rhombus. Now rectangles and squares are also going to be base times height. So those are the formulas you really need to know. Now here are a list of B represents base, H is your height, B1 is top base, B2 is the bottom base, and D1 and D2 are your diagonals. That's what all those letters mean in the formulas. So what we're going to do is just practice some of these. So the first one, you see that you have a triangle. Now if you use the wrong formula, obviously you're going to get the wrong answer. Now another thing you need to know is height is always measured vertically. Okay, if you want to know the height of something, you don't measure it diagonally. That's not the height of an object. You go top to bottom or bottom to top. So to find the area of this triangle, first you have to use the 1/2 base times height formula. So 1/2 is just part of the equation. Your base is 10 for the 2 and 8, and your height is 4. So 1/2 of 10 times 4 is going to give you 20 meters squared. Okay? Pretty simple. And this next one, this is a parallelogram. When you have a parallelogram, it's the base times the height. So our base is 10. Don't be fooled. The height is 5. Like I said a few seconds ago, you never measure height diagonally. It's always a vertical measurement. Okay, so 10 times 5 would be 50, and in this case would be centimeters squared. The trapezoid, you have to use your 1/2 times the height times the sum of the bases. So you have 1/2, your height is 6, and the sum of the bases is 4 plus 12, which would be 16. So 1/2 of 6 is 3 times 16 is going to give you 48 feet squared. All right, so as you can see, it's pretty simple if you use the correct formula and you have the correct information. So these next two, this is a rhombus. Now, like I mentioned, a rhombus is a parallelogram. So if you had the vertical height, you can still use base times height. This we do not have the height or the base, so you need to use the other one, which is 1/2 diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. So the full length of one of the diagonals is actually going to be 6. And the other diagonal would be 4 and 4, which would be 8. So 1/2 of 6 times 8 is going to give you 24 meters squared. The last one is a square. The squares have the same length on all 4 sides. So for this, again, it's base times height. So 8 times 8 is 64 inches squared. And that's it. Now those are just straightforward, simple, this is how you use area formulas type of problems. Now what we're going to do is we're going to kick up the fun level a little bit and start throwing away some of the information that you're going to need to use. So sometimes you're not given everything, but you have to use what you've learned in other chapters to find that missing information. Like this first one, you're going to have to go back and find the height. Well, if you remember back in the day when we were working with the geometric mean, you would have to set up 2 over x is equal to x over 4. So x squared is equal to 8. So x is equal to 2 root 2. So now you have the height. So now we're going to do 1/2 of your base times your height. And we're going to get an area of 6 root 2 units squared. So yes, you want to leave your answers exact whenever possible. And if no specific units are given, like in this row, which I did intentionally, if you do not have a specified unit, you just write u squared for units squared, meaning whatever the units may be in this problem, feet, inches, miles, you use u squared. If it is specified, then you use the one specified. Okay? And this next one, you were not given the height. However, we do know a little something about 30, 60, 90 triangles. So if this is 30 and this is your 2s side, this would be your 3, and the height would be 3 root 3. So now you have a base of 10, a height of 3 root 3. So you just multiply them together and get 30 root 3 units squared. And the last one, as you can see, is a 45, 45, 90. We know that this is your L root 2 side, which means this is 10 root 2 and this is 10 root 2. So again, it's 1/2 the base times the height. 10 root 2 times 10 root 2 is 100 root 4, which is 200. But remember, we still have to take half of that, so your area is 100 units squared. And that's it. You're good to go. Working backwards problems. This is when you're actually going to find the missing dimension based on your given area. To do this, honestly, the best way to do it is use your formula. So the area for a triangle is 1/2 the base times the height, and it's equal to 32. We were given that the area was 32. We know the base, we don't know the height. So 1/2 of 8 times x is equal to 32. 4x is equal to 32, so x has to be 8. All you're doing is working backwards. So again, you set up the formula first. A parallelogram is simply base times height, and it's equal to 40. We know that the base is 10. We don't know that the height. So 10x is equal to 40, so x is equal to 4. Plain and simple. Next one, a kite is 1/2 of diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. We know that that's equal to 16. So one of our diagonals is AB, which is 8. So we have 1/2 of 8 times, now this is the part you need to be careful of, we have x and x here. X is only part of the diagonal, so this is actually 2x. And that's equal to 16. So 1/2 of 8 times 2 would be 8x is equal to 16. So x is equal to 2. And there you go. It's just working backwards. So I'm going to let you try the last one. Go ahead, press pause, see if you can find x for the trapezoid. So you should have 1/2 of the height times b1 plus b2 and set that equal to 24. 1/2, we know the height is 4, and the sum of the bases, the top plus the bottom, is equal to 24. 1/2 of 4 would be 2 times x plus 10 is equal to 24. Distribute, 2x plus 20 is equal to 24. 2x is equal to 4, so x is equal to 2. So we know the top base has to be 2. And of course, when you're done doing these, you can always go back and double check your answers to see if it works. So for this, we could actually say 1/2 of 8 times 8. Yep, it is 32. You're good to go. In this one, you can do 2 plus 10 is 12 times half of the height. 12 times 2 is 24. Check it with the answer, and it works out. So last thing I want to do really quick is show you how to convert. How many centimeters are in 1 square meter? So what you want to do is you want to draw yourself a little picture here. Just draw a square because we're just talking about square units. So if it was 1 meter, that would just be 1 meter by 1 meter. But then you need to convert to centimeters. Each meter has 100 centimeters. And 100 times 100 is going to give you 10,000 centimeters squared. Okay? So for feet, I'm telling you that this has an area of 1 square feet. So how many square inches would be in 1 square foot? If you said the answer is 144, you would be correct because 1 foot has 12 inches. And 12 times 12 is 144. And that's it. So that's how you find the area of triangles and parallelograms and other quadrilaterals such as the kite and the trapezoid, all wrapped up into one video. This is Longo and I'm out. See you, bye.